What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
AFC South. About to be the clash of the Titans. Strike like a lightning bolt. You feel the ground pounding, that might be the coast. Quick like a joke, like to hit when provoked. Don't you doubt that. That's a Jaguar to a house cat. That's an outcast to a whole squadron. If you talking Houston, then we've got a problem. You'll probably get the horns if you mess with the cattle. Sit back in your saddle and get ready for the fan battle.
Really quickly, just don't forget to plug Sam Loves Jalen Ramsey. All right, everybody, have a great night.
Never gets old. Guys, welcome back to the AFC South Fan Battle Podcast. Tonight we have a special guest, but before I introduce him, let me get to our wonderful commentator. I mean, you can use the word wonderful, but we won't go there. Starting off with from last to first next year, the Texans. Mr. BT, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? I'm repping the winners of the offseason.
There you go. Speaking of winners of the offseason, they're used to it. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Cody Cold Gaming. What's up, bub?
Cody Cold Gaming. But yep, all right. We ain't winning this offseason, man. This is a slow time for us. So whatever we're talking about, like winning the Super Bowl this year.
And they've been to the Super Bowl, won it before. Let's go to the Colts, Mr. Chris Jackson.
Thank you for mentioning that. If you leave it up to anybody else, like, and Ben, no slight Ben, but if you leave it up to Tennessee Titans fans, they act like we never been there, and that the guy's arm magically reached into the end zone and they won in the Super Bowl. But you know what? How's everybody doing this evening?
I figure I'd be like a Colts fan and just mention what happened 20 years ago. So you're welcome. Speaking of delusional, let's go to the Titans fan. RJ, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Y'all know I'm the smartest person in the building right here. Man, I don't know what they even trying to cap on here, man.
It's funny. He's the only person in this house right now.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl, man. Hey, man. Nobody cares about them dusty cobweb Super Bowls that you guys like bringing up, man.
And
Super Bowl.
Hey, RJ. Hey, RJ. Who am I?
You talking about Kevin? You talking about Dyson, man?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey, man. He was my head football coach, right? Whenever I was in high school. And we used to, every time we get beat in a game, we always had to hear 1 yard short.
Oh my God.
Every time we lose, bro. Every time we lost.
But getting to the best for last, we got from Fox Sports covering the AFC South. We got Mr. Ben Arthur. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing?
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Doing good, man. Doing good. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Are you enjoying the offseason?
Yeah. It's for the AFC South in particular, I think it's been a very interesting offseason, right? I think when you got like the infusion of the young quarterbacks, that makes things very interesting with Anthony Richardson and Will Levis and CJ Stroud. I think for my job in particular, it makes things fun heading into this year. So I'm really looking forward to things picking up. Obviously, after this next week, which is mandatory minicamp, it's going to be quiet until training camp. But as far as the season, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens and seeing all these storylines take shape and whatnot.
Oh, most definitely. Talking about stuff coming up, the Jaguars just announced that they are Cody, 2027 going to have a new stadium.
Oh yeah.
Ben, I start with you. What does that mean for the whole AFC South? Because that's the first division ever to have all teams with a dome, correct?
Yeah, it looks like for 2027, by 2027, all four teams in the AFC South will have domed stadiums, which would make it the first division for that to be the case. And I think that's just kind of the wave of the NFL, and in terms of like from a business standpoint, in terms of just the events, and I think from a fan experience too, right? When you're not, I think the NFL is thinking like, when the fans aren't as exposed to the elements, there's kind of that more of an entertainment. It's kind of the entertainment for the NFL for the future, I think, and the AFC South is clearly in the forefront for that. I mean, personally, I kind of like the feel of, the roof is out. I mean, you get to experience the elements, right? Like, I think that's when we've had some of the best games ever, like the snow games, and when it's super muddy with on the field, like just in terms of the rain and the mud and the cleats and whatnot. I think that's kind of what makes football in a sense, but I think with the way the league is going and the way the league is looking to market its product, that just seems to kind of be the wave of the future.
Yeah. Hey, do you feel like with you, like being informed of all things AFC South, that like with the Jags' new stadium, there's going to be precautions in place to make sure that they can keep the wrap droppings outside the stadium?
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah, do you think there's going to be precautions in place?
I didn't catch that.
Do you think there's going to be precautions in place to keep wrap droppings outside of Jaguar Stadium this time?
Wrap droppings. I'm not
wrap droppings, because they have a rodent infestation at TIAA Bank Stadium right now, and just trying to figure out exactly how they're going to do that.
I didn't even know that. I mean, I know TIAA Bank Field isn't in the best of shape. I've been there several times. Obviously, I hadn't even heard of that infestation. So that's kind of news to me. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that from an upgrade standpoint, it'll be much better, for people not to have to deal with that, and just from all the renderings that the Jaguars have produced, it looks a lot like SoFi Stadium. I know a lot of people have talked about that, but I've been to SoFi multiple times, and just kind of those renderings, kind of that futuristic look to it. It kind of embodies that structure. Kind of futuristic looking building. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they got a damn good stadium, but it ain't better than that one that's gonna be a Nissan, in Nashville.
You talk about that upgraded Top Golf stadium.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You rather go to which one would you rather go to, a Top Golf or aquarium?
An aquarium.
I mean, it depends on the date. I mean,
it
could be a little bit active, boom. But if you want to see some fish and water,
I'm working on my golf swing, man. What you mean?
So, Ben, after seeing both of the concepts, which one you think is better? You think the Titans' new stadium concept's better, or the Jaguars? I know you're a little biased because you used to write for the Tennessean. So, but
yeah, I mean, no, that doesn't really make me biased. I mean, I'm not a Titans fan, so okay. I mean, I can look at it objectively. I don't know. The Jaguars stadium definitely appeals to me more. The renderings of what the Titans kind of stadium of the future is, it looks smaller. I know there aren't going to be as many seats. It kind of looks more like a
Whole Foods.
It looks more box-ish, like from the outside, like a massive, like how like some of those like those Whole Foods look. No, honestly,
one grocery
honestly,
store
like
to the
from,
next.
yeah, like I don't know. It just, I mean, from the inside, from those renderings of what the inside is going to look like, I think it's really cool. But it is, there is going to be a reduction in the seating capacity, and just the exterior doesn't really move me the way that the Jaguar Stadium of the future does, and looks like that's. I don't know. It looks the Jaguars won just with the whole water element to it, and again, kind of how it looks similar to SoFi. I really like SoFi. I mean, SoFi is like a spaceship. Like it's the most incredible like building I've ever been inside of, and the Jaguars stadium, the renderings of it kind of remind me of that, and yeah, so I would say based on the renderings, I'd have to go Jags for now.
It's almost intimidating to me. Like I look at it and I'm like, like the stadium we have now, whatever. I feel like I could just, go wild or whatever in there and like just be myself. But the renderings that they have, I feel like I gotta wear a tux just to walk in that motherfucker.
No, I mean, I look at it like this though. I've been to cold football games. I've been to the rain football games, and I'm tired of it, man. I'm gonna be real. Like I love my team to death, and I'll be out there in the snow for them. But man, I could just see, like, I mean, obviously the Tennessee Titans, Jaguars, our fan base are nowhere near the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dallas Cowboys, or San Francisco 49ers. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like our division is best for us to just get domed so we can get more and more people to come to our games. You know what I'm saying? That aren't fans of the teams. Because people just go to football games just because, we get more for the amount of tourists that Nashville gets. I'm sure Jacksonville gets a lot of tourists too. And so I just look at it like this, man. It's better for the Titans and Jaguars to go ahead and get a dome stadium.
We got tourists like coming to the city or whatever, but they're not sticking around. Like that's the thing. And then like having a dome stadium, like in our stadium right now, the teal colored on the seats is fading away, and they like repaint it or do whatever. Like they did. They put like a new like probably the Jaguars thing up, and then a year later it faded. Like the sun is insane in that stadium. So like, and it's something that the fans begged for to like just have some like covering or whatever, because those early games, like, you'll see like, oh, there's not a lot of people there. Like, yeah, you sit there for like that whole time, whatever, and try not to die with like bottle of water is like $12.
Yeah. And a good thing too, is that it will bring in more revenue, like Super Bowls. I mean, you're
exactly.
Gonna get Super Bowl for Jacksonville and Nashville. So that's awesome for the AFC South. I don't know if y'all saw it, but there's a lot of pictures on social media floating around, and Max is correct. There's a picture of it looking like a toilet bowl, and I just can't get it out of my mind. But
I know it looks exactly like a John. That's what it looks like.
The two concepts are basically like a futuristic toilet bowl versus a futuristic IKEA. Like it's just like you gotta pick one between the two.
I'm telling you, it's top golf for me. Like ever since I've seen it, that looks like people just drive.
We call it PlayStation Stadium now, man. Because like, I ain't gonna lie, from a distance, it looked like a PS1.
It looks like the PS1.
Bro, ain't none of us going in a helicopter to the stadium like that. We're not even going to see it from that view. Like,
right,
it doesn't even matter.
Well, guys, let's talk about why we're here, and that's the AFC South. Let's jump off with the first team because there's some news about it. Right now, DeAndre Hopkins is in Tennessee. Before I get RJ's question to you, Ben, what do you think about the Titans as an offseason, and what have you heard about DeAndre Hopkins and the Titans so far?
Yeah, I think the Titans need DeAndre Hopkins more than he needs them.
Right.
That's true.
The Titans wide receiver room is really sad right now. Treylon Burks, I think he's really going to be a stud in year 2. Having watched a lot of their OTAs and mandatory minicamp, which just wrapped up, like he carries himself like a number 1 receiver now. He's in much better shape. The asthma thing is a thing in the past. He just looks like a totally different cat right now. Like I think he's going to be really, really good. But like beyond him, it's like kind of what are you going to get? Like Kyle Phillips, who was a 5th rounder last year, looked really good in the offseason stuff and preseason, but only ended up playing like 4 games. And just the depth isn't really there in that room. And having a guy like DeAndre Hopkins who would be able to take pressure off of Treylon, just give them another threat in general to make that passing game respectable, because right now like if I'm an opposing defense, I'm not worried at all. Really, besides Traylon and Chiga Okonkwo, their second-year tight end. I mean, no one in that pass catching room it really moves me. So I think he would be a huge addition, and I think in terms of the Titans offseason overall, it's kind of been interesting, right? Because they've cut a lot of players. They've kind of retooled the roster, so to speak, and I think for the longest time people didn't know if they were just trying to go all in on a rebuild or if they're really just trying to retool around their core guys and have another run at it kind of with their core veterans. And I think it's the latter, like, because there was so much talk about Kevin Byard, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill, and all three of those guys are still on the team with just over a month or so until training camp, and they've kind of revamped that O-line and the defense, at least at the starting level, I think is still very strong. I think health enabling, that they could be a lot better than the national perception of them, and I think DeAndre Hopkins would kind of help, right? And knowing Vrabel, even based on kind of the perception of the team league wide right now, he's going to be a coach that always wants to win. Like, Vrabel isn't the type of coach that's going to be comfortable taking a step back in terms of like, oh, well, just screw 2023, like 2024, like when we have more cap space and more money, like we'll really make a play at it. Like, Mike Vrabel doesn't think like that. So I think DeAndre Hopkins and bringing him in would really make that team, that offense in particular, much stronger. Do I think that they can compete at the highest levels in the AFC? No. But I do think that they can still be competitive and challenge Jacksonville in the AFC South.
No, y'all heard that.
I didn't. What?
You heard that. You see that we not too scared of y'all, bro.
No,
I just wanted to be known, because when I say it in the group chat, that people say that I'm wilding. I ain't got it.
I mean, I think you guys are going to try to compete. I think the problem is, I kind of said some of this in the group chat, but if you look at your O-line, right, like beyond DeAndre Hopkins, you obviously you need someone to throw to him. And in order for someone to throw to him, you need protection. And your left tackle, Dillard, is a backup left tackle. He's not a starter. He played 4 starting snaps last year at all. He's basically someone that we have as our third string left tackle. Like, that's the quality of left tackle that you have. Then you're moving your guy from guard to center. And now you did pick up a baller at left guard with Stronsky. I think he is awesome, but he's a rookie. So now you have Dillard and you have Stronsky and the dude that's moving to center, all essentially new on your team. And they're going to be problems in the beginning. So I think you're going to have problems with the line. I don't think that DeAndre Hopkins actually ends up with the Titans unless they give him more than $20 million. My dark horse vote is that I actually think he ends up at the Giants. So I think you have problems with the line. I think you have problems with the wide receiver position. I don't think Derrick Henry is actually going to last healthy, all 17 games. I don't think Tannehill is going to stay healthy. I think you're going to have to throw in Levis there around week 10 or so. So I can understand the hype of a Titans fan wanting to say that, but I just don't see it, man. I really do see the Titans winning like 5 games this year.
So RJ, what's your question for Ben?
Let me think. So I mean, he just pretty much ran down the offensive line. Have you got a chance to look at the offensive line this year, Ben?
Yeah. I've been at most of. I went to pretty much every OTA that was available, and then I was there for mandatory camp too. So I've seen it.
So do you think that this offensive line that we have is an improvement over last year?
It's hard to say exactly right now, because I mean, this part of the off season was like they're just in helmets and shorts, right? Sure. Like, like with the guys in the trenches, like you need the pads on, you need those padded practices, and they're going to have joint practices too, and so I think it's going to be a while until we actually get a good evaluation. But I do like what they've done. I mean, they're younger and more athletic. I think the upside is there. I mean, Andre Dillard. I mean, sometimes with guys, I mean, it takes just a change of scenery,
Yeah, I
and
think
the
he's
right
overreacting
situation.
on Andre Dillard.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah. I
Andre
mean,
Dillard was a
Mailata.
first round draft pick, man, that didn't get a chance to start at the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's why he wasn't starting. And dude is still a talented player, and he's way more talented than Dennis Daly. Dennis Daly is by far the worst left tackle I've ever freaking seen. By far.
Oh, then you
And
must
we won
not have watched
7
Matt
games.
Pryor last season.
We won 7 games with that dude.
But yeah, I think Dillard. I mean, and when you lose your confidence and being in a market like Philly and Mailata kind of passes you in terms of being a left tackle, like there's a lot going on there, and sometimes it just takes a change of scenery. I'm not saying Dillard is going to be fantastic, but I think without him having actually played with the Titans yet, I think the jury is still out on kind of what he can be. Skoronski could be really good, but again, yeah, he's a rookie, and rookie O linemen can have their moments where it looks really, really rough. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Nicholas Petit-Frere could take a big jump at right tackle, and then I don't know, right guard is probably I think maybe the weakest spot, or I mean, they
I do
probably
like Brunskill,
Daniel
though. I think
Brunskill.
Brunskill's
Yeah,
good.
Brunskill could be all right. He had some good years, with the 49ers. But yeah, it's so tough to say right now with that O line, and I think the biggest thing is like continuity, like guys like getting rep after rep with each other, like that unit more so than any other. Like you need to be able to communicate and be able to communicate for twists and stunts and making sure everything is straight. So I think this could be. I think it's an improved O line on paper, but it's probably going to take several weeks into the season for that continuity to really show up on film.
Yeah, there's some questions in the comment section. They were saying they said that they had a. I'm gonna bring up next comment. They said they had a plan at wide receiver. Do you think this was it, the DeAndre Hopkins?
I mean, I don't think this was it, because I mean they couldn't have known that DeAndre Hopkins was going to be an unrestricted free agent, like released for nothing by the Cardinals. I mean that was kind of a move that I didn't really understand, from Arizona's standpoint, and so I mean it just seems like the Titans clearly haven't been as concerned about the wide receiver spot than everyone else on the outside, like, and the fan base. I mean, they didn't. The only guy they picked up in free agency was Chris Moore, who's like probably a wide receiver 3 at best. They didn't draft a receiver until the 7th round. I think they're banking on a lot of the guys returning to step up. Traylon Burks, Kyle Phillips, Chiga Okonkwo is going to be a big part of the passing game. I do Tyjae Spears, that rookie running back. I think he's going to be a big part of the passing game, catching out of the backfield, and then Josh Wiley, who they tight end. I think they're really going to utilize Wiley and Spears and yeah, just kind of see what they have. I mean, I think they certainly had chances to improve on paper the wide receiver room in a significant way, and they didn't. And so I think they kind of feel much better about their wide receiver room than clearly everyone else on the outside. So I guess we'll see. I'm not optimistic about that room, but my opinion doesn't matter. I mean, it's what they think and how those guys ultimately perform. So I guess we'll see.
I think. Well, I for one, I don't. We was just talking about this off screen. I don't believe that we're getting D-Hop. I mean, the Titans will never get signings like this, man. This is just hard. We'll get somebody in a trade or something, but a free agent signing, I just don't see it. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I actually don't see it either.
I can still hope and pray, but I don't see. I think we're gonna get some secondary wide receiver that got cut in preseason, and we're gonna pick him up. Right? But
that's a very Titans thing. That would be a very Titans thing to happen. Yeah, for sure.
Hey Ben, only because RJ and I were having this discussion yesterday, and it's perfectly fine if you're being completely objective, but on paper right now, because the topic of discussion was, you know, the wide receiver rooms, like how they rank them and everything, and as it stands right now, because I said that I wouldn't necessarily, I'll give them that. I was just like, I'm not gonna say they're the worst, but they're definitely a bottom five.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would agree with
Yeah,
that.
I agree
Yeah.
with that. I was just saying, like, I just said that there's got to be somebody they have a better wide receiver core than. That's the point I was trying to make.
I mean,
Everybody said we had the worst.
I can't. I honestly, yeah, like I'm not saying that they have the worst wide receiver room, but I can't think of a team that they have a better wide receiver core than. I mean, can you guys think of one? Because I
I'm
can't.
taking some wide receivers. I'm taking Burks over some wide receivers, so that already makes this, in my opinion.
Like who though? Because the thing is, I think that's the homer in you speaking. That's not that's not the actual person. Because when you think about it, it's like Patriots just got Juju. I'd take Juju over him. It's just like you even, I think, when you think about somebody like Atlanta, it's just like you still have Drake London. I take Drake London over Traylon Burks.
Yeah,
So,
I would.
Like, there's a lot of wide receivers that I would probably take over Burks at this point, only because it's just like.
So would you take
Exactly.
Robert Woods over Traylon Burks?
Yeah, but Robert Woods isn't the number one in Houston. I think even even with what they have right now, I think the Texans, you could say that they have a young, kind of unproven. I know that Nico Collins has been there, but the thing is, it's like if Mechie can get over 500 yards, he's already better than Traylon Burks.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Texans,
I mean,
I'm sorry. I don't know about that, man. I just feel like
I don't know about that
Burks
one
didn't get a
either.
chance to play this season as much as he
Yeah.
wanted. Because if he'd have played all them games, he definitely would have had over 500 yards. Like, come on now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Like with Traylon, we're looking at upside, right? It's not, his production clearly isn't there because he only played 11 games. He had that slow start to the year, and then he had the concussion in the Philly game, and he just never had it together. And then going back to the pass protection, like they couldn't get the receivers the ball as much as exactly. So it's so hard to say.
No, they're gonna find out real quick. They're gonna find out.
I can't.
All right. Well, let's move to the next team so we can keep it under 2 hours there, fellas. To the Texans, Ben, you wrote a pretty good article about C.J. Stroud. I loved it. That's what made me reach out to you to see you come on. What's your opinion on the Texans offseason? And we'll have BT ask you his question.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the draft. Getting Stroud and then getting Will Anderson right after that. I mean, we could have a whole talk about the value of kind of what they did to trade up to get him, but I think if he's a hit, like he's a defensive cornerstone, like a franchise defensive player, I think that's a win. And I loved Tank Dell. He's obviously small, but just so twitchy. Great route runner, can obviously provide value as a returner. And then I think Houston did a really good job of like addressing like every hole they had. I mean, their run defense was like the worst in franchise history last year, and the upgrades they made on the defensive line and at linebacker to really to work on that. Getting Dalton Schultz, I think he could be a really, really big producer for that offense when you think of having a rookie quarterback and needing that security blanket in the middle of the field. And in West Coast offenses, that what they're going to run in Houston, tight ends are just such a huge part of that. And I think Dalton Schultz is going to thrive, and Damian Pierce and that O-line is really nice. I really like what they've done, extending Tunsil, getting Shaq Mason, who's been one of the best guards in the NFL forever. I'm trying to think of the other moves they've made. I mean, the wide receiver room is still kind of a question mark. I mean, Robert Woods at this point in his career, I'm not quite sure what you're getting. I think a lot is you hope that John Mechie, after battling leukemia last year, that he could give them a really nice, he could have kind of a breakout type year. But I'm really high on Nico Collins after watching him play several times last season. If he can stay on the field, like he's nice. Like he could really do some things like as an X receiver. Like he could. I really like his game, how he gets open and whatnot. But the health is kind of the big thing there. So I like the offseason Houston has had. Obviously, like it all has to come together. But in terms of on paper, like they pretty much did everything that you would have wanted them to do. So I like what they've done.
All right, BT, I'll let you ask the question.
Yeah, so one thing that you mentioned was the run defense. And, we obviously got Will Anderson, we got Sheldon Rankins, but my worry has been that I don't know if we have the proper size DTs really to help stop the run. That's been my number one question this offseason. And I'm just curious what you think our run defense will look like. As you said, we were 32nd in the league last year in run defense. Where do you see the Texans in terms of ranking, in terms of run defense? And do you think that we actually have the line to get after that run, or do you think we still have to make more moves in the defensive tackle position?
Well, I don't think it could get any worse than what happened last year. Again, it's kind of hard to evaluate like when like pads and whatnot and haven't been put on and without any game film to work with. But yeah, I mean, would it be nice if they could add another guy like, but before the season, whether it's, I don't know. There's still some D linemen out there on the market, and maybe they could get someone off the waiver wire. But I think they've kind of done enough to this point, and I think bringing in D'Amico Ryans, like I think that's going to make such a huge difference from what they're doing defensively that I can't imagine a world where the run defense is even close to being as bad as it was last year. And we know how he brings like greatness out of his linebackers, like what Fred Warner, Drain Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shire did in that defense. I think guys like Christian Kirksey, Christian Harris, I think all those guys are going to take a step up. And so I'm not sure quite where they're going to rank at this point, but I can tell you they're not going to be the worst run defense in the league anymore. I just don't see them being – I could see them being much closer to average this year.
And especially adding Henry Tutu and
from Alabama, yep.
And Perryman. Perryman is like a Nico Collins. If he can stay on the field, I think he's going to have a great year, especially in the tackle department.
Oh, you guys got bum ass Henry Toll. That dude can't cover for nothing.
We don't need him to cover. We need him to the tackles.
Yeah, he's not going to be the Mike. So Perryman's going to have to worry about coverage, and he's healthy. He was out there at OTAs. But I'm curious because you mentioned Kursky. Do you actually think that he stays there for the entire season? Because I'm imagining he's gone before.
He could. Yeah, he could actually be gone. I mean, they would save. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they would get some good cap space by cutting him. And Christian Harris will obviously take a step up, and they brought in Corey Littleton too. So that they have he could be gone, right? But I think he was solid at times for them last year. So if he does end up sticking around, again, having a guy like D'Amico Ryans as your play caller on the defensive side, I think all those guys are, especially in that front seven, are probably going to play better. But will he be there the whole year? Probably not. I don't know.
So there's kind of a debate. I'll ask you before I move on to the next team. But do you think there is a possibility of Robert Woods being cut after the preseason?
I honestly hadn't even thought of that. I don't think so. I mean, they just have so much uncertainty in that receiver room to risk cutting a veteran guy, even though he might not be what he used to be. I think that's just such a tremendous risk. I mean, Tank Dell is a rookie. You don't know what Mechie is going to be like, what's going to be like his true rookie season after dealing with leukemia. Noah Brown, who they signed to, like he's kind of more of a, I don't know, wide receiver 3 type. So they don't really have like that number one guy, especially like, I don't know. I think Nico Collins, again, is a guy I'm high on, but I think there's just so much uncertainty with that room that to kind of cut the one guy who you kind of know what you could probably expect from him.
No, so they don't have their number one guy, but yet they got a better wide receiver room than the Titan.
Well, I mean, I think that I know this question wasn't asked to me, but I'll just say I don't think there's any chance in hell that they cut Robert Woods, other than some sort of injury settlement if he gets injured. But I think they have him there for a reason. Is because you got Xavier Hutchinson, you got Tank Dell, you got John Mechie, even Nico Collins, who's he's in his 3rd year. None of them know the system. Robert Woods is the only receiver on that roster that knows the system. So even if they don't take him and he's not playing like 70% of snaps or something, I can't see them cutting him. Not to mention that he's got guaranteed money too. So he's got over $10 million of guaranteed money. I just don't see any reason to cut him unless, they want to give him some sort of injury settlement. I haven't looked at the details of his contract, so I don't even know what capability there. But I don't think that he's going to get cut after preseason. I think that's just an overreaction. I think a lot of people thought, they looked at him in Tennessee and said, all right, this is what we can expect after Robert Woods. And, the bottom line is that after Tannehill got hurt, Tennessee really didn't have a quarterback. There were games where they literally threw less than single-digit amounts in a half of football. So what do you expect Robert Woods to do there? So I don't think there's any way in hell that Robert Woods gets cut.
Well, Amari Rodgers knows the system too, but I know what you're talking about as veteran presence. And he's actually looking pretty good with the whole CJ Stroud and Amari Rodgers hookup. So I kind of leaning towards Noah Brown being the odd man out or Sims being cut. But all right, well, moving on. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say Robert Woods okay, man. I mean, I'm not gonna say he was good or bad. He's just he okay. You know what I'm saying? So he'll probably be on y'all team. More likely he should. It depends on what his cap hit is.
All right, well, jumping into the Colts.
Yeah. Well,
Ben,
I know.
Go ahead. What do you think about Anthony Richardson before we jump to Chris Jackson's question? What do you think about Richardson and what the Colts did this offseason?
Yeah, I love Anthony Richardson. I love what Anthony Richardson can become. I think there was like this narrative that he's just this raw. I mean, we all know kind of the freak of nature athlete he is at the quarterback position, but there's like this narrative that he's raw, and he's really not that raw. I mean, he navigates like the pocket really well. Like his instincts are good. It's just the reps. He's so young. He like just turned 21. Started just 12 or 13 games at Florida. So I think the biggest thing is just reps. And I think being in an offense that really accentuates his strengths, I think if Shane Steichen can bring to Indy what he did for Jalen Hurts in Philly in terms of having an option offense where you can you have the threat of him using his legs and his arm, and Anthony Richardson is a better athlete than Jalen Hurts too. He's not as polished of a passer, but in terms of upside, if you're a Colts fan, I just think there should be so much excitement because of what we know Shane Steichen could be as a play caller. So I like what they've done. I love Josh Downs. He was one of probably my favorite receiver in the draft. Just super, super productive. People are going to talk about his size, but I mean, just turn on the film. Like he gets it done. Reggie Wayne, their wide receiver coach, was saying, how he was kind of one of the guys he earmarked throughout the draft process. So I really like him. I don't know. The one thing that kind of confused me was that the Colts didn't really do anything with the O line. Like they didn't really address it. It was they gave up like 60 sacks last year. They did pick up what's his name, Blake Freeland, in the fourth round out of BYU, and they picked up the former basketball player. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but in the seventh round. But he is so raw. He hasn't been playing O-line that long. And so, they're really banking on Bernard Raymond really taking another step forward in year two. And I don't know, Will Fry's playing better. And I don't know. I'm still like not so sure about that group. I do like their O-line coach, but
Sperano Jr.
I think Sperano. Yep. So I like what they've done overall. I like Anthony Richardson, the athleticism. You look at the athletic numbers for all their guys, like that relative athletic score metric. Like a lot of the guys tested off the charts. And so you're encouraged by that, but just the kind of the lack of making meaningful upgrades to that O-line is probably the one thing that I didn't like so much about their offseason.
Okay.
Yeah. And, like I said, I think I asked the question earlier, but you know what? After you so eloquently put it about, Anthony Richardson and everything else, I'm just going to say thank you, Ben. All right, we can move on. That's all we needed. That was what else do I need to say? I mean, you heard it directly from the source. But in all seriousness, when it comes to this Colts team, one thing that I've said is that I don't expect, Richardson to be, I'm going to say possibly even into like the 40 to 45 passes per game range this year anyway. I mean, do you think that not necessarily because of the inexperience, but because of the fact that this is a team that can move faster, you're going to see a lot of those concepts, like a lot of those read option wildcats, like how much of that? And do you think that eventually he may possibly evolve into that, 40 to 50 passes a game type passer? I'm going to say not even this year, but just like I'm going to say within the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he'll ever be that. I mean, he could be, but I think it's so important when you have a quarterback like that to accentuate his strengths. Like what like Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, like those mold guys, like really, I mean, sure, there'll be games where they throw like 35 plus times, 40 times, whatever. But really, like the threat of their legs is so unique, and they have a talent with their legs that other guys don't have. And so having an offense where you take advantage of that. And then I think when you have a running back in the backfield like Jonathan Taylor, assuming he gets back to the all-pro form we saw in 2021, like he can take a lot of pressure off of him, especially when you're breaking in a rookie quarterback. Give him the ball 15 to 20 times a game and to take that pressure off. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think we'll see some wildcat read option, RPO, whatever. Like we'll see a lot of that. And not to say, I mean, Anthony Richardson can throw the ball, right?
Yeah.
Like he has an arm, and we've seen him complete like just some incredible, pass plays kind of deep downfield. But I think when you have such a unique talent like that, I think if you're Shane Steichen, you have to figure out, okay, how can I use the threat of his legs, his build? Like he's just a big quarterback, like kind of Cam Newton like size. Like how can you take advantage of that in certain situations?
Yeah. When I seen the Colts sign a deal with Shane Steichen, that is one quarterback I did not want to go to Indianapolis. I think Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson is a recipe for disaster. If anybody can mold Anthony Richardson into a great quarterback, it's going to be this guy. I mean, look what he's done with Jalen Hurts. He almost lost his job to Gardner Minshew. So for him to do a complete turnaround and become second running up for MVP and now the highest paid quarterback, I think he's going to do wonders with a guy, like you said, but with his athleticism and his size and build. So I'm a little scared down the road, but
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that.
me and VT,
I got a question.
me and VT's been saying that this whole offseason.
Yeah, we're simpatico on this one. I mean, I actually do believe a lot in Richardson's talent. I think that in 2-3 years from now, he's going to be a real threat to not just the division but the league. And Shane Steichen, he's one of the dudes. Like, trust me, I love that we have D'Amico, but I was saying let's get Shane because I was saying Shane, the combination of Shane and AR was going to be a powerful combination. So I'm not even going to cap and say that I did say that prior to the draft or the head coach search. So yeah, I think you guys, honestly, did real well. I mean, you had a historical draft. You drafted 12 players in the draft, more than you've ever drafted in franchise history. You went young. You got over 15 dudes as undrafted free agents. So you're going young. You got a good head coach. I think you have a good quarterback. So, and overall, I see the Colts getting better and better. Maybe not this year particularly because he's got to learn and stuff. But 2 plus 3 years from now, I think that'll be really, really strong.
Yeah, in 3 years, the Colts can be where the Jags are right now. I just got to keep grinding, man.
Listen, you say that now. If y'all end up 5-12,
just got to keep chugging right along, going in that direction, man.
Y'all got to at least do it 2 years in a row, bro.
That's what I'm saying, man.
That's about to happen. Let Ben talk. He's gonna tell you. He's gonna tell you. This is a smart guy right here.
Well, before we go to the Jags, I think RJ had a question. RJ, did you have a question?
Yeah. I was gonna ask. So, what do you expect from AR this season? Because I've been trying to tell Colts fans that he's probably gonna struggle coming out the gate, but then he's gonna figure it out probably by year 2.
Colts fans thinking he's gonna come out the gate like Andrew Luck, dude. Like right.
He's not.
Who says that?
That's your people, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anyone who has compared him to Andrew Luck. I mean, Andrew Luck was like a generational talent, polished. Like Anthony Richardson is nowhere near the football player that Andrew Luck was coming out of Stanford.
Yes. Colts fans crying right now hearing you say that.
But yeah, I mean, with Anthony Richardson, it's a long-term play, and again, his age. Just didn't start a whole lot of games at Florida. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
I think if you see, I think with the Colts, like this season is going to be a success. Like if you see those positive strides in terms of just kind of the development and making sure that offense kind of works for him and whatnot. Like I don't think anyone is expecting him to have like a Justin Herbert caliber rookie season or something like that. That would be great. I mean, not saying it won't happen, but he's just not. I don't think he's quite there yet. And I think year 2, year 3 is like really where we're looking at what he could become because he just didn't play that much at Florida. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest thing is going to be the fact that, you're not looking at this team right now and saying we have to be a pass-happy team. Like, this is a team where it's just like where you still have Jonathan Taylor, you still have multiple people all over the place. It's just like at this point, it's just going to be about making sure that he does really get those reps in. But if he's doing well while getting those reps in, then fantastic. But, I mean, like I said, Anthony Richardson wasn't drafted for us to literally get a Super Bowl this year. Anthony Richardson is drafted to be that future at quarterback that'll be able to make sure that, we don't end up having, to continue to go through this QB carousel.
Yeah.
And
while over the age of 30 years.
Exactly. Right? No QBs over the age of 28. I hashtagged it on Twitter. I manifested, and here we are.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks under the age of 28, and like Ben said, generational talent, we'll go to the Jaguars. Before I go to Ben, I got a comment I got to read. Jaguars have one good season per decade. Cody Cold Gaming needs to get his gloating out of the way. It's going to be 2030s before he gets the chance again. So,
That's mean. That's mean. They push out a good season every 5 seasons. So.
Yeah, I say 5. Every 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Ben,
it's literally 5. I looked it up yesterday.
I take it.
Ben, before we get Cody's question to you, what do you think about the Jaguars offseason?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I I like what they've done offensively. Like the whole theme was kind of continuity, right? And just kind of building on the strong foundation they already have in place, and being able to integrate Calvin Ridley into the offense, having that number one receiver, and by all accounts, he's looked fantastic, and that's really good news for those in Jacksonville.
You'll hear that having a number one receiver looks fantastic, dude.
I think losing Jawan Taylor. I mean, that was a blow, but I think I think that the O line will be solid. I think they'll be fine. I mean, it could be a little rough. I mean, Cam Robinson is probably going to be suspended. They're going to have to put in Walker Little and Anton Harrison and Walker Little will kind of probably be the day one starters at OT, and so there could be some bumps and bruises there. But overall, I mean, when you return 9 guys to an offense that was already like a top 8, offense in the league, and Trevor Lawrence taking another step and having one of the best coaches in the league and Doug Peterson as your play caller, I think Trevor Lawrence should just take another massive step this year. Defensively, I have some concerns with the pass rush. Like, I feel like they haven't really done a whole lot. They lost Arden Key. Dwayne Smoot is still a free agent. He's probably not going to be back. But they haven't really added anyone, right? And there's a whole lot riding on Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen having really big years, and even beyond them, like the depth, I feel like isn't all that great. So I think with Jacksonville, the pass rush is what I have the biggest concern about it. Especially you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC that you're going up against. Like, you're going to be able, you have to be able to get some good pressure on the passer, and I'm just not sure that they have the personnel right now up front. But I mean, the secondary, I love the secondary. Tyson Campbell, really good corner. Rayshon Jenkins, great safety. Darius Williams. So I mean, overall, I like what they've done, and they're returning all their starters on defense. Like, overall, 20 of 22 starters between the offense and defense are returning, and you still have the same coaching staff for the most part. And so they should be even better this year. I know there's the talk of like the Jags having one good year like every several years, but I do think they have a really stable culture in place for the first time in forever. Like, I just don't see them just being a bad team. Like, like when those the 2017 Jags were really great and then they just fell off a cliff in 2018. Like, I just don't see that happening where they just kind of fall off. They have too many guys returning. They have their coaching staff back. That they just have so much positive momentum. Calvin Ridley, all that. So I think they're going to be good again, and they're the favorite to win the AFC South. So I like overall. I think I like what they've done.
If any time to do it, it's going to be this year, right? You play, of course, the AFC South, which is horrible, two times a year, and then you play the NFC South, which I think is worse than the AFC South, but that's just my opinion. So if it's the time to do it, this is you lose to the good teams, and you beat the sorry teams, and you got a 11-12 win record right there. So sorry, Cody, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. Go ahead. What's your question, bro?
No, it's fine. He actually answered some of my questions, so it's like, just so everybody else can hear you say this, who's the best wide receiver quarterback duo in the AFC South right now?
It's Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley. I mean, it's not really up for debate. I mean, and just the totality of the Jags pass catching, like between like Zay Jones and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram at tight end, like Calvin Ridley, like the pass catchers. Trevor Lawrence is already the best quarterback in the division, but he has the best group of receivers by far. So, it's not even a comparison. It's not really even a debate in my mind. So
so we pretty much just saying Calvin Ridley is an elite receiver already, and he ain't played in 2 years. That's what we coming out and saying.
See, this is the stuff I got to put up with.
I'm just saying. I mean, the man ain't played in 2 years. Like you can't just throw him out.
He's gonna have to. Yeah, he's gonna have to.
Is he better than Christian Kirk right now?
But
is he better than Christian Kirk right now?
I mean, what I've seen in OTAs, dude, this guy hasn't missed a step.
Okay, I respect him. If you see him in OTA doing it, then
yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, if you don't want to say Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley, you're gonna have to say it's Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk.
Yeah, if he would have left it alone, but I'm like, dang, we already saying he better than Christian Kirk. Like, the man ain't played it.
I mean, Christian Kirk could be a number one on many teams after the outing he had last year. So
I've been hearing something like Calvin really about to do this 1,600 yards and 1,800. The Jags winning 14 games. The Jags doing. I'm like, man, I said these boys better live up to the hype, man. They got a tough schedule this year. We'll see.
I mean, honestly, it's yes, it's a first seed, right? But I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, listen, obviously, I'm not a Jags fan, but it's not even all that difficult. I'm not saying they're going to win 14 games, but I can easily see 10 games.
Okay. Yeah, I can see
10 games. Yeah, 10 games for sure.
Like I said,
that's enough.
That's enough to win the division.
Yeah, more likely. Yeah, I don't know. I got, like I said, I have my team at like 8 or 9 wins, 8 to 10 wins. So, like I said, I don't know. So I just want to make sure the division comes down to week 18 in Nashville. We get there, we can get Jacksonville there.
Ben, before we get you off of here, let me get your opinion. I know a lot of writers and sports talks don't like giving predictions, but what is your predictions of the AFC South come standing wise? Who's winning? Who's second? Who's third? And who's fourth?
Winning Jacksonville, second Tennessee, third. Ooh,
here we go.
This is where it gets kind of hard. Third, I'm gonna say Houston. Fourth, last place. Sorry, Indy. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's the record in last place, though?
Are they fighting for Marvin Harrison?
They went 4-12-1 last year, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 5 and 12.
All right, that's fair. I said on the Colts podcast, the Colts Fan Battle podcast that we do, that I was just like, the floor is like 5 or 6 wins. So
yeah,
I'm completely okay with that.
And that's why I got the Texans 6 or 7 wins. So
I have same 6 or 7. Yeah,
but I actually, me and BT both actually think the Titans are going to be the last division. We think they're going to be 4-13.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I don't see it. I can't see that.
Thank you.
I know Tim. I know Tim Kelly.
Here is just wild.
I know Tim Kelly's offense, and it's not very good. And we still don't know how Ryan Tannehill is going to be. And
they still worry about Ryan Tannehill. That's crazy.
I mean, bro,
like this man been just running through this division for the past 2 years. They still worry about Ryan.
First off, Tannehill has not been running through the division. Derrick Henry has been running through the division. Tannehill has been handing it off to the person who's been running through the division.
It's most definitely both. Come on, bro. We weren't winning the division with Mariota. So what you mean?
Well, he was inconsistent last year. I mean, he
was inconsistent. He had no line. And you have every play.
And you don't have a line this year. And plus,
our line definitely better.
He's coming back from. Well, he's coming back from injuries, and you never know what older.
I just can't look. I get it. I get that y'all don't think Tannehill is that good, but just to say that you question what he can be when he's already shown you that he can be a respectable quarterback in this division for 3 years now, like that's just crazy, man. That's crazy.
RJ, there's a thing you're forgetting. There's one person who's undefeated of all time, and that's Father Time. That's
There
one
you
thing
go.
you're not understanding is another year older and
Y'all said that about Henry, and he
he's
came
been
back and
hurt.
ran for 1,500 yards. Like you up all the
But
time, we get him eventually. Like
Come
I'm
on,
still
bro.
praying. Like,
You're talking about a guy. Last year he was 29, and you're talking about a quarterback who's what 36 this year. There's a big difference,
Oldest in the division.
right?
hey,
So
Tom Brady played to 40. So
Don't do that.
I mean, let's
Don't
not
do that.
compare
That's
Ryan
nasty.
Tannehill
That's
to
nasty.
Tom Brady.
That's nasty. That's
Like,
nasty as ever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The
Yeah,
way,
that
the
was-
way
yeah,
the
that's
league is
nasty.
set up, bro, the quarterbacks can play
Ryan
for a long time.
Ryan Tannehill never cheated, so he's not the GOAT.
That's nasty. That's nasty work, RJ. You know it.
Hey, I'm just,
But
I
like
like
I said,
throwing them arguments. man. That's
if
all
Ryan
it is.
Tannehill does do what he has done in the past, then yeah, I can see y'all coming in second place. They're not beating the Jags, but
We'll see.
if
Week
if
18
he's
in
a question mark,
Nashville.
Happening.
Week 18 in
Not
Nashville. Just
happening.
we'll see.
if
We'll
he's
see.
a question mark, I think he's going to be. I think it's going to be a rough season for Titans. And
I'm just all I'm gonna say is, I'm gonna say this.
Will
I'm gonna say
Levis
this.
too is a big
Cody,
question mark.
do not let the division come down to that last game of the season. That's all I'm saying. Don't let it come down to the last game of the season.
And don't make me come up there and spank you in the Whole Foods.
All right, Ben. Well, this is the worst part of the show because it's the end. Why don't you tell our listeners where we can find you on social media and what you got cooking over there at Fox Sports?
Yeah, so appreciate you guys again for having me on. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Ben Y. Arthur, one word. And yeah, I'm on foxsports.com. You could just go to my page and you'll see all the stuff I've written. And yeah, I'm not cooking up anything in particular, or not anything I'm like ready to disclose yet. But I will be going to stopping at Colts mandatory mini camp on Tuesday. And yeah, and my work can be found on the Fox Sports app as well. So but yeah, that's pretty much it. Appreciate you guys.
Oh, hey man, thanks for coming
Thank
on. Chris Jackson, where can we find you at social media?
You can find me at CJ Colts fan on Twitter. And also you can find us at Horseshoe _ mob on Twitter as well. And you can see me on Tuesdays with Josh Senior and Austin Cook on the Horseshoe Mob podcast as well, 9:30 Eastern time, 8:30 Pacific or 8:30 Central. And you can also find me on the Horseshoe Mob podcast making fun of RJ because he didn't want Will Levis.
Oh,
Yeah, well, hey, thanks for doing my job. RJ, what about you? Where we can find you at?
you can find me on Twitter and the RJ Show, man. You can also find me on my on the best podcast in the world. You know what I'm saying? Tight Coliseum, man. You know what I'm saying? On YouTube, Facebook, the Fan Battle Sports Network. You know what I'm saying? All of it.
Well, you have me confused because when you said the best podcast, I thought you were talking about BT. BT, go ahead and talk about what you're.
You can find me on Texans Fan Battle, part of the Fan Battle Sports Network. We're on YouTube. We're on every single podcast platform you can think of. We stream live every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central. You can find my articles at fanbattlesports.com. And in fact, a lot of the shows here have been really putting out really great articles. So you guys should check that out. You can check my Twitter handle at BrownChubbyBear. I do spaces. Haven't done a lot this week, but I usually run spaces about 3 to 4 times a week. So if you're a Texans fan and want to argue about the Texans, I'm your man.
All right. And well, let me fix BT's comment. Every team is except the Jaguars is putting out great articles. Cody, go ahead and tell us where you can find you at.
Yeah. At Cody Cold Gaming on everywhere, and then at Jack's Fan Battle. We host the podcast and we do it every Tuesdays at 8. And the co-host,
All right,
the better one.
And you can find me at A1 Day 1 Texans and with BT on Wednesdays on the Texans Fan Battle. Like BT said, guys, make sure you check out www.fanbattlesports.com for great articles, and you can see the past episodes of each show. Until then, guys, we'll see y'all next week. Happy Father's Day if we don't go live.